Chapter 6, Section 3. This is entirely on piecework. Okay, this is getting paid on piecework. There are 5 different ways that we're going to discuss today. There are more, okay, that may be specific to a company, but we're going to talk about 5, probably 5 of the most common ways to get paid on piecework. Item number 1 would be straight piecework, okay? Probably the most common people that get paid straight piecework are truck drivers, okay? They get paid per mile driven, for the most part. They get paid per mile they drive, usually, depending on what company they work for or what record they have, as far as police, speeding and stuff, is probably how much they get paid or how long they've been with the company per mile. But this is probably a little bit low. I just kind of guessed. I think this amount is 32 cents a mile is low. The way to find the amount you earn on straight piecework is you take the price you're getting paid per item times the number of items that you've either made or driven. Okay? So, Lacey, how would I find how much this truck driver is going to get paid? If he gets 32 cents a mile and he's gone 680 miles. Right. 32 times 680, and that gives me $217.60. Straight piecework. If you work somewhere where it's a seamstress shop, I don't know how many of you have ever watched like How It's Made, where people would do a lot of things by hand. Okay, I just watched one like a week ago where people were making saddles for horses, and it was all made by hand with leather, and I'm sure they get paid per saddle that they make. Okay, well, depending on maybe what size saddle you make or how long you've been working there, it might be the amount you get paid per item. If you make a bridle, okay, this is all horse stuff. If you make a bridle, you might get a certain amount. If you make a saddle, you get paid a lot more since it's a lot more time consuming. Well, at this seamstress shop, if you make a jacket, you get paid $4.50 per jacket. You get paid $1.25 per set of gloves you make, and you get $1 per scarf. Suppose we'll say week, I made 50 jackets, 40 gloves, pairs of gloves, and 30 scarves. How much am I going to get paid, and how do I find it? Well, I just take the amount that I made and multiply it by the by the amount that I get paid per item. So I made 50 jackets at $4.50 a jacket. I made 40 pairs of gloves at $1.25 per set, and I made 30 scarves at $1 per scarf. So I made $225 on the jackets, $50 on the gloves, and $30 on the scarves. So my paycheck is $305 that week. Straight piecework. Questions? Okay. Number 2 is differential piecework. This is very much like the problems you did yesterday for commission, where we just talked about up there, for the first $7,500 that we sold, we get a certain amount. For the next $7,500 that we sold, we get another amount. Well, this is the same thing. For the first 100 pieces for this example, we get $2.50 per piece. If we make more than 100, we get $3 per piece, between 100 and 200. Anything over 200, we get $3.25 per piece. So depending on how many I make that day or that week, depends on how much I make. How do I find my gross pay? Well, if I made 240 pieces, just like we did those problems for commission, is the same way we do it for piecework. Okay, for the first 100 pieces that I made, how much do I get paid? $2.50. So, you take your 100 pieces and you multiply it by $2.50. So I get $250 for the first 100 pieces. still have 140 pieces left to get paid for. So for the next 100 pieces, I get $3 a piece. So I get $300. And I just got paid for 200 total pieces, and I still have 40 left. Well, what's the rate for anything over 200? $3.25 per piece. So I get $130 for the last 40 pieces, so my paycheck is $680. Chargebacks. Incorrectly made items or spoiled items. Suppose that we'll work at that same seamstress shop, and suppose you made a jacket that had the opening in the back instead of the front. So you made it wrong, or you made a set of gloves without a thumb. Okay? Meaning the company no longer can sell it. So what they'll usually do is for items that you made incorrectly or that you didn't do right, they'll actually take it out of your paycheck. But they usually don't take it for the full price. So if you got $4 per jacket, they might take away $3 and actually just pay you for $1 for your time, even though they can't sell it. Okay, those are called chargebacks. Items that are made incorrectly or that are spoiled. Okay? So how do I find that? I find my earnings after my chargebacks. I take my piecework earnings, just like we were doing, and I subtract out the number of spoiled items times my chargeback rate. So if my gross earnings were $680, and I had 14 spoiled items, and my chargeback rate is $3 per item, I have to take my piecework earnings, which was $680, and subtract out 14 times 3. I'm not going to get paid full price for those 14 items that I messed up. A lot of times this helps companies ensure that you're doing your best work, because if you're just slapping things together and it's not good, it keeps the quality up of their product if you don't mess up. So I have 680 minus 42. So instead of getting $680 as if all the items were made correctly, I get $638. Number 4, guaranteed hourly. So basically, suppose you start a new job where you make piecework. And the employer says, all right, listen, we're not going to, since you're not used to making these items, if you don't make enough to make at least minimum wage, we'll go ahead and give you minimum wage for that day. Okay? So you make the higher of your wage, your minimum wage, or the higher of the piecework. Now, I wasn't exactly sure what minimum wage was. I think it's $7.70 now, isn't it? But on this problem, we're just going to say it's $7.40. Okay? So how do I find out if I made 75 items on Monday, which is down here, and I made 60 items on Tuesday, how do I find out how much I'm going to get paid if I get paid the higher of the hourly minimum wage or the higher of the piecework? Well, the first thing I need to know is how much do you get paid for an 8-hour day at minimum wage? Well, I take my minimum wage, multiply it by 8 hours, and I get $59.20 at minimum wage per day, if that's what I make. Well, my piecework wage is 85 cents per piece. So on Monday, how much money would I have made piecework-wise? Well, I take my 75 items and multiply it by 85 cents per item, and I get $63.75. So which one's higher? Which amount am I going to get on Monday? Yeah, the piecework, the $63.75. So that's what goes down here, the $63.75. Now on Tuesday, on Tuesday, we did 60 pieces. So how much would we get paid for 60 items? $63.75. $51. So is that the amount that I get on Tuesday? No, I would get the minimum wage. You're exactly right, because that's higher. So I would get $59.20. Questions? All right, the last one, number 5. Overtime piecework. This is when if you work more than 40 hours in a week, instead of getting paid a time and a half per hour, you get paid time and a half per piece that you make in those overtime hours. Does that make sense? So, for example, if I make 50 cents per piece and I had 300 pieces made during my regular hours and 25 pieces in my overtime hours, how much am I going to get paid? Yeah, I'm going to take my 300 pieces at regular rate, which is 50 cents per piece, and add my 25 pieces times time and a half of the 50 cents, which looks like that. So the 300 pieces, I just get 50 cents per piece, but the ones that I made in overtime, I get, what's time and a half of 50 cents?
$1.50.
75 cents. You get 50 cents plus a half of 50.
Oh, God.
You guys did 2.5.
Yeah.
So I get $150 plus 25 pieces at 75 cents per piece is $18.75. So I get $168.75. Total. Any questions?
Is that what? Is the times 3?
Yes, times 3 means multiples of 3. Meaning do number 3, number 6, number 9, number 12. Every third problem is what you have to do. Okay, now,